A few hours ago, the Central Bank of Nigeria announced a new $200 billion non-oil export program. Professor Ken Ife, Development Economist, live from Abuja studios. Professor, give me your first word on this latest announcement by the Central Bank.
Thank you for having me. It's brilliant. I tell you, it's brilliant. Let me explain this. We have had over the last 3 years Forex demand management and intervention program that tends to support a backward integration agenda and then maintain food security, and from there progress to provide raw materials for the industry. Now we are having an orchestrated Forex supply management perspective. So where we are doing is a frontal attack on supply of the Forex. And it's doing it in a very different, special way. One is putting incentives, private sector response to incentives. Then two is bringing private sector of financial institutions to help the private sector that are actually in the 3 tiers, at the production level, at the manufacturing level, and at the export service level. So all of those two are coming together in a very decisive way to tackle end-to-end intervention in that area. You have intervention at the very beginning from raw material conversion, and then you have it at infrastructure provision, and then you have it at the service. So it's complete end-to-end. I think this closes the loop, the vicious loop of foreign exchange cycle that we have in the country.
Well said, Professor. But again, let's quickly begin to unpack those 5 pillars that the Central Bank Chief talked about, or anchors of this new non-oil export incentive regime. Let's start with the value-adding export facility or concessions. What does it really mean?
Now, you know, we have been, according to the structure of international trade, we have been relegated to exporters of raw commodities. And he just gave a brilliant example. That if you look at the cocoa value chain, whilst Nigeria, Ghana, and Cote d'Ivoire provide 70% of world primary cocoa produce, we get less than 7% of the entire value chain. The value chain is about $130 billion. We account for just around 6 to 7%. So it doesn't make sense. So it's just targeting that one is known, is already happening, get people on the system to add value, and then give them the incentivize them to do so. So that's program number 1. And there's so many more examples. The same example will come to area like ginger. We have shea butter. We have other things like gum arabic. All of these are in the same category. Oil palm. We could do anything. There's nothing we can't do with oil palm. But we just know we're on the value addition. And we are just at the receiving end. So
these value additions essentially is that the central bank will provide support for local companies that want to add value here at home before exports.
Correct. But of course, you know that is an entry-level support. As they begin to export them, if they bring back the dollar, they have more incentive. The whole thing is scale. That's why I said it's end-to-end. You will see how we go. When we go from 1 to 5, you will see that they add to each other. Is and addressing a holistic chain.
Yes, okay, they address each other. So that takes us to the second pillar, which you're talking about reinforcing pillars, by the way. So what about the second pillar of this non-oil commodities expansion facility?
Okay, there are some products that are not currently extensively in export over the years. I mean, take something like cassava. Cassava, we can export the dry cassava. We can, there are many other value chains that even the rice that we are producing now can be exported. Other things, there are many other things that we're currently producing can join the train. And if you look at NEPC has this one product, one state, so there are, those will come in because we'll have to partner with some of the states where he's already mentioned the geographical criteria, that there are areas where there is comparative advantage production of certain goods, so we will be targeting them. But you also involve minerals, solid minerals. So it's not just food, solid minerals and all of that technological based products that could find their way out. So those are going to be the second tier and also this second tier would also feed the first tier, because if you are beginning to produce more of these other products, they could also join the train of value addition of the first tier, and then the journey continues. So they are mutually inclusive.
Well, the first and the second pillar or anchors reinforces each other on the FX side, but there's a non-oil FX rebate scheme which was also announced. Who benefits from this scheme and how?
No, the exporter benefits. The first and second anchors will still benefit from that because that comes to the level of what we have. You have exported, you are bringing in your revenue back into the country, your forex revenue. Besides the one that you will use or consume for yourself, all others that are available to others will be incentivized. And that is where we are learning some lesson from the incentivization of the remittances, and of course the export expansion grant scheme that has been on for some time. So we're learning lessons from both of them, because if you put private sector, if you put incentives in front of a private sector, they just react immediately to incentives. And that is why they are reacting to arbitrage opportunity in Forex. Wherever the incentive is, the private sector will seek it out. All we now try to do is to make sure that the regulatory agencies that are working with the private sector have a level playing field and then plug holes and ensure that, we are accountable.
Well, there's all of this new initiative of RT200, work with the NEPC, and you mentioned the NEPC earlier, the Nigeria Export-Import Bank. This is basically a bankers committee program. So how will it work together? How should it work together?
They have to work together because let me give you an example. In export, Nexim and Afrexim are import-export banks, and they may address some other aspects of the equation. Because, for example, somebody accessing the production money for the production facility may also need money for marketing. There may be other things that they need. So in that way, or even building export infrastructure. And so in that way, they will be able to access resources from the Nexim Bank and Afrexim Bank. Also, the NEPC that has a role to play, a core mandate in this area of export, would also add value to what is being proposed. For them, it's going to be music to their ear. I've been speaking to the directors at the NEPC for quite some time now on how to leverage the Anchor Borrowers Program. I have taken proposals to them, I have talked to them, and I know the nature is there, but I think that this is a frontal attack on this program, and they have to join in. They really have to key in. This is a monumental opportunity that they've been waiting for.
Well,
especially when you look at the number 5. Look at number 4.
Yeah, number 4, yes. Which is the central bank looking to support state governments with the bankers committee, the construction of dedicated non-oil export terminals. This could be a game changer for Nigeria, you think, Professor?
Absolutely. I tell you what, the real problem facing Nigeria in terms of export of raw materials, example, especially the agricultural raw materials, is that we have not built the requisite quality infrastructure that will enable our products meet international standards. We don't meet conformity assessment requirements around sanitary and phytosanitary requirements, technical specifications, and non-tariff barriers. We don't meet those. We haven't got the infrastructure to do those. Now, what the program 4 comes to say, we want specialized port. But it's not just a seaport. A seaport will be accompanied by cold logistics, cold chain logistics, conditioning center around the airport, and cold storage facilities in the airport, so that when the food arrives, they could be processed and off they go. You don't have to transport processed food from Jos to Lagos. No, they could be processed in Lagos, packed, and leave within a few hours from the airport or from... So it shortens that and then makes sure that all the necessary quality infrastructure, like the certifications and testing regimes and the scanners, everything that you need, they are there in the port. That's all the infrastructure required to ensure that you can account on quality assurance.
Professor, the central bank governor was making those announcements a few hours ago, and I was thinking about the upcoming deal between Nigeria and AFDB, the African Development Bank, towards this special agro-processing zone that we're trying to set up. 7 state governors were in Ivory Coast, the capital, where the headquarters of AFDB was just a few weeks ago, and the AFDB is ready within the next few weeks to come into Nigeria to make this formal announcement. And this State 7 government, do you think this particular announcement by the central bank for these specialized non-oil export terminals, as the governor Emefiele said, all come together?
Oh, no, definitely they come together because there's a close alignment between the two. Let's take, for example, if you had Calabar Seaport, some part of it dedicated, it is an export processing zone. It is a seaport. And then you can deploy all the resources that you require. You can have export conditioning center right there. There's a Dangote factory there that is processing pineapple. So, and there are many more. So you can have them there, and then you have storage facilities to store, and then you have cold vans that are going to be moving the goods, especially go through the night so that the heat of the sun doesn't cook those food substances. Bring them over through the night, and then air-conditioned vehicles to bring them there, finalize, treat them, process them, and then grade them and pack them in a special pack, and then off it goes. So those things, they come together. So if it is a special economic zone, it will have a wider range of facilities in the special economic zone, and then you now map it onto a sport facility. That completes the circuit. And this is real action that is needed in this country. We've been evading us for a very long time.
Well, the central bank is looking to save the naira, or rather, well, save the naira, strengthen the naira, ensure that we get a whole lot more FX in, and it's been issuing a number of policies and around e-invoicing and all of that, all in the wake of saying, look, we want to retain the dollars here, and we want to be sure that export proceeds get back into the country. But some of these have had some pushback, as it were, from stakeholders within the export-import community.
Yeah, well, that's true. But don't forget that the fundamental problem with our Forex is that there's a mismatch, an ongoing mismatch between the demand for Forex and the Forex available. If we are moving for a program that is going to be looking at $200 billion, then you might as well kiss goodbye to all this Forex problem we have been having, because we will have oversupply of Forex. That means our currency will strengthen, and that means everybody would want to come to do business in Nigeria. And then that also means that whenever we decide to devalue, it's not devaluing because we are pressurized to devalue. It's because we want to increase the export orders of our products. So when you do something like that, you increase the volume of forex coming into your country by deciding to tamper with the exchange rate, not the other way around. Some
folks may argue that export is not really under the mandate of the central bank. So why is the CBN doing this?
No, I think this is where I fundamentally disagree. We have to understand that the problem of this country is not meant to be solved by politicians alone. And we have had a fair share. They have had a fair share of the challenge. We know if you take an example, agriculture. I've discussed this with you on your program before. We have seen the limits of federal government or state government or public sector leading agriculture by way of agriculture production program. We're talking about agribusiness because the person that produces the food is the farmer, and that producer is the last mile. So what we now have is that the central bank is not doing anything except organizing the banks, bringing them to, which are also private sector, bringing them, giving them the enabling condition, using regulatory enablers to enable them to work effectively with the last mile, which is the man that is producing the food, man and woman producing the food, and those processing the food, and those export. Government does not export food. And don't forget that government hasn't even got the license yet to export meat and fish products, which is one that is the domain of the public sector. Most other countries, all other countries have to, the certification for that has to come from government, or public body. But for other things like fruits and vegetables, private sector, they all play on that. And we have been doing our best. But we can't export fish and meat products because we're not qualified to do that. It's the government that should deal with that. So we have a lot of trouble, and we don't expect central bank and the bankers committee to go into the gutter fighting with politicians about whether to force anybody in a pop-up seaport to do this. They should leave them and create new vista of economic opportunity so that our people can export their products. Look at Ghana. Ghana cost them only $4,000 to export 100 tons of cocoa, whereas it costs you about $30,000 or $35,000 in Nigeria. We've had that story. We've had it for a long time. And I think we should just stop this whole story and leave the bank to do what it is. All the agencies of government, all the regulatory agencies of government working with private sector to try and facilitate the private sector working with them so that they can expand the economy. Take customs. I did work for World Bank about across the whole Nigeria to Cote d'Ivoire. I did a job looking at a special customs regime, preferential custom regime called authorized economic operator, which is where the custom works very closely with the private sector to remove all the shenanigans going on in the export front and move it down to their warehouses and open the space for our business. And it hasn't happened. All us are piloting it. Cote d'Ivoire is doing it with Ghana. We haven't done it. We haven't even implemented single window since 2010. So there are so many troubles and problems there. We don't want to go and fight those wars. Do a new thing. 100 for 100 PPP is a new project.
Okay.
Get people that are interested to create opportunity in Nigeria. Anchor Borrowers Program is it's not a revolution, it's a complete transformation of our agricultural system. And you've seen the pyramid. So we need to get away from this dirty fight in the gutter. We can't do that. We have to create opportunities in this country. We have 200 million people in this country.
We really appreciate your in-depth analysis and perspectives on the latest Central Bank Non-Oil Exports Initiative, RT $200 billion. Thank you so much, Professor Ken Ife, Development Economist.